Hi, I'm back to show the basic Saturday sampler for August of 2021. This month, we're going to be working on the companion angle by Easy Quilting. And we've done this ruler in the past, but we have not done it this year for the basic class. There we go. So the directions for the cutting are pretty simple. You're going to be getting a large piece of white, and those are going to be cut into 4.5 inch squares. You're going to also get a second piece of white that's very long, just like the red, and those are going to be cut into a 2.5 inch strip, and it's approximately 15 inches. It doesn't have to be perfect, but approximately. So don't cut the ends, just cut the strip at 2.5 inch wide. The blue is a little bit wider, and you're going to get 2 strips out of the blue at 2.5 inches. And the very last one would be our multi for our center square at 4.5. All right, so measure very carefully. Don't forget to put best press on your kits, and measure and cut. All right. So I have all the pieces cut for today's block on my table. My corner squares, my center square, and our strips for the quarter square triangles. So the quarter square triangles are made up of 2 blue quarter squares and 1 white and 1 red. So when we cut our strips for the quarter square triangle, we're going to layer these together, and then I'm going to lay one out to show you the best way to sew these so the blues are opposite. All right, let's take a look at the ruler real quick. Too much glare? No, it's okay. So the companion angle cuts your quarter square triangles anywhere from a base of 1 inch all the way to 10 inches. And when I mean the base of a quarter square triangle, what I'm talking about is, sorry Heidi, if you could look up here, this quarter square unit right here finishes at 4 inches square. All these units finish at 4 inch square. So the base of my quarter square triangle, if you look at each one of these, the base of it is a finished 4 inch. All right, so if these finished at 5, the base would be 5. If it finished at 10, the base would be 10. But it's always the outside edge. How much does that finish? All right, so the ruler, to use the ruler, pretty simple. You go down the edge of the ruler to find the finished triangle base size. So ours was 4 in this example. So we're going to look at the 4 and the line right below it, and we're going to go to the center, and that tells us how wide to cut our strips. So for every piece that finishes at these sizes, it tells you exactly how wide to cut your strips. So that's why I had you cut your 2 blue, white, and red strip at 2.5 inches. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and layer our strips together and cut them with the companion angle. On my white, you'll notice I do have some selvage here. I don't want to get that in my my cutting. So we'll go from this end. All right, so I have the blue and the white, and I have the blue and the red. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and put all these strips on top of each other. I have a nice sharp blade. Is it time to change your rotary cutter blade? It's a good time to come in for that. And the first thing we're going to do is lay our companion angle so that the bottom of our strip rides right along that solid line under the number 4 for finished triangle base size. And this blunt area up at the top is going to sit right at the top of our strip. And we want to make sure that we move it over enough that we don't waste too much on this side of this angle. This will be waste, but we want to get it over there as far as we can so we don't waste too much. And then all we're going to do is we're going to hold our ruler down and we're going to cut both angles for our very first cut. All right? So there's our first one. And these 4 will make a 4-inch finished quarter square triangle. So we're going to continue. We need 4 of them for the north, south, east, west units in our block. And I just turn the ruler around 180 degrees. I didn't flip the ruler upside down, so it's the same thing, just turned. So now this solid line under the 4 is at the top of my strip, and the blunt area is at the bottom. All right, so once we have that angle and those 2 pieces, we can go ahead and cut our second companion angle. All right, we're going to flip it around again, find our angle, find the top, line it up along the bottom, and cut. One more. So you see these 15-inch strips are really quite long enough. Not long enough if you make a mistake. All right. So we'll cut one more. All right, so to line up your quarter square triangles in order to sew them more effectively and to chain piece and to make sure that you do have a blue and a red and a blue and a white that are going in the right direction, it's important to line up your blocks and sew on a very specific side. All right, so we're going to take the first ones, and I'm just going to open them up for you. So we have the blue and the red, and in this unit we have a blue and a white. All right, so let me grab a pin. All right, so we'll put the white with the blue, and this is the angle. This is the one we're going to sew first. We'll sew this big triangle together and this triangle together. So I'm going to put right sides together, and they really should be the exact same size. And I'm just going to put a pin on the side that I want to sew. All right, and this was the side I wanted to sew. And again, this is the side, so I'm going to put this one on. All right. Oops, a little cockeyed. All right, so we have this blue one and this blue one, and we're going to go ahead and do that for all of them, getting them all straightened up so that the blue is on top, the blunt side is at the top of each one, and we're going to sew every single right side. So I think it helps to line them up, pin them together, lay them out in the right manner, and I would like to have you start sewing at the blunt side and finish off at the point of the triangle. I think that's a little bit easier to feed your pieces. Okay? So again, I have these. I don't have to really open up. I have the blue and the red, which is just identical to that. So I'll sew here. And I have the blue and the white, which is identical to this one, and I'll just sew here. Okay. All right, so let's sew these together, press them, and make a unit. So I'll do a few of them, just so we all get the idea. To make sure they're right on top of each other, and I'm going to go ahead and start from the blunt side and work my way down to the point. So we need a nice 1/4 inch seam allowance. following right along the edge. So what happens when I get to this little point and I no longer can hold my fabric? Well, you can use a stiletto if you happen to have one. You can use a little pair of scissors to hold it, or you can even use a little seam ripper. What you don't want is for your unit to shift out of position so it's a 1/4 inch up here, but then it tapers or goes a little wide at the end just because your feed dogs can't pull it through. All right, so that's a great use of a stiletto. And we'll go ahead and keep feeding. Take out my pin. Do not want to sew over pins. Holding on to that little point at the end just so I can feed it. And now it's getting a little hard to hold. I'll just make sure it goes in nice and straight. I'll do another one. And then we chain piece all 8 of these. 8. How many? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16. We're doing 16 of these. Sorry. I'm doing 8. You're doing 16. All right. So each of these gets pressed toward the blue. So all 16 of yours are getting pressed toward the blue. So let's do that. So remember, if we are trying to press toward the blue, we want to, sorry Heidi, we want to make sure our blue is on top, right? Give it a little bit of heat. I'm just going to open this up, hold it nice and hard with my iron, push down a little bit, just tug gently on the top and push that seam open. And just hold it for maybe a count of 3 or 4 just to set that. You can see everything is nicely pressed to that side. So here's a white one, a little bit of heat on the seam. Hold it up, put your iron on that bottom piece and push away from you and hold the iron on for a few seconds. All right. Okay, so now it's a good time to grab a pin, because when we put these 2 pieces together, since I pressed this one to the blue and this one to the blue, I should have locking seams. They're going in opposite directions. So when I put them together, I can take my 2 fabrics and draw them next to each other, and the seams butt right up against each other and they lock. So if they're locked right next to each other when you sew them, you're going to have a really nice intersection where the 2 pieces meet in each of these blocks, and it won't be too shifted. So right here you can see how the 2 pieces intersect right there. Okay. So let's go ahead, lock our seams. And what I like to do is give it a little bit of a pin right before I get to it. So you kind of feel that there's no gap between the seams. There's no space there. It's just seam next to seam. All right. So I put a little pin just to hold it. And now we're going to go down this whole line, the longest part, and hope it doesn't eat my fabric. Wonderful. All right. We're going to stop, pull out the pin, go ahead over that intersection, make sure these points are lined up right on top of each other. And once again, when you get down to that point and you can no longer hold your fabric, I don't want this to slide out of the way. I want to keep it nice and straight. we're going to have a quarter square triangle. At this point, you should have 4 of these. And what we're going to do is we're going to open these up. Nice intersection. Yay me. And we're going to just press it in one direction. Okay? So again, a little bit of heat and a push away. Count of maybe 4 or 5, depending on how hot your iron is. And now you have a quarter square triangle. Okay? So you're going to make 4 of those, and then it's simply putting 3 together to make your top row, 2 more quarter square triangle units with your center, with the multi-center square, and another 3 together at the bottom. Once you have those, what I did is I believe I pressed my middle ones toward the center and my top and bottom rows seams toward the white, so that these points will lock. And just like we did on this corner, this intersection, it's really important that you pin just before you get to this intersection so that it doesn't shift on you and you have a nice straight line going through there. It looks kind of like a square and a square, but really it's just squares and quarter square triangles. All right, couple of announcements. We have starting Saturday, August 21st at 10 o'clock, you can pick up your August basic kit by showing your completed July block. And when I say completed, I mean it has to have the applique stitches on it. We're going to have a big stack of Finish the Bolt of selected fabrics. They are 50% off of those bolts, and it's one day only, Saturday, August 21st. Bernina Serger, we have one at a blowout low sale of $399. That's a tremendous savings, and that is until August 31st. So come on in and check that out. And the last thing I want to mention is we are looking for students for the Mondo Bag Class, and that is for Tuesday evenings, 6 to 8:30, starting next week, Tuesday, August 24th. So if you can join us, please do, and thank you for watching.